The views and opinions expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Forge Fitness and Nutrition LLC, the podcast hosts, owners, employees, contractors, partners, or affiliates. This presentation may include the use of explicit language. Listener or viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome to the Forge Fitness and Nutrition and Habit podcast. I am your host, Michael S. Parker, and today's guest is J.D. Tremblay. J.D. is the Director of High Performance and Mental Resilience Advisor at the Hungry Warrior Academy, an amazing institution. He's an integrated engineer, a naturopathic practitioner, former military service member with over a decade of experience, and an ultra-endurance triathlete. It's remarkable. Wait till you hear his story. His work focuses on understanding how the human body and the mind perform under extreme stress and how structure, discipline, and faith allow people to remain strong in their calling over the long term. And as you all know, at Forge, it's all about sustainability. Through his engineering mindset, JD views the body as a complete system that links that physiology, the recovery, the stress, the energy production, and even decision making. Totally on board with that. That naturopathic background, from what I've read about him and I've seen, is that it emphasizes a drug-free root cause approach to health. It's all about prioritizing stewardship of the body. And I find that to be a really powerful statement. Also, personal responsibility. For those of you who are fans of the Forge podcast, know that's my thing. And of course, sustainability is woven in all those two factors. JD has tested these principles in the real world against himself through his military service and then competing in one of the most demanding endurance events on the planet. One of the most remarkable examples is his completion of the epic DECA. It is, for those who don't know, it's 10 Ironman distance triathlons in 10 days across the Hawaiian Islands. And it's an incredible accomplishment. And he is achieved by very few athletes around the world. Today, through his work at the Hungry Warrior Academy, JD focuses a lot on developing men who are physically capable, they're mentally resilient and spiritually grounded. Love that. So teaching the true high performance begins with, well, I think it begins with integrity, discipline, and ultimately it's service. It's service to yourself, and then it's service to your family, and it's service to your community. And JD, welcome to the Forge Fitness, Nutrition, and Habit podcast.
Thank you for having me, Michael. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about you. You use some terminology that I find really interesting because I think in the way that we look at society nowadays, especially with social media, a lot of buzzwords are used and people try to put power behind words. But sometimes, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Princess Bride, people use words that they don't really know what they mean. For example, in The Princess Bride, the guy always says inconceivable when something conceivable happens. And one of the characters looks at the other character and says, you keep using that word, but I don't think it means what you think it means. And I've noticed that is so true in social media, that people use words, especially inflammatory words, right? And they have no concept of what that word means. And I could give you examples, but that's not my point. The point is that you use identity, and that is something that has become a major, I don't know, I feel like people get all wrapped up in identity, or at least they pretend that they are. But I think that based on what I've been researching with you and learning, that the way that you look at identity is the more pure form. So I wanted to talk about identity, discipline, and purpose, because you teach that true high performance begins with identity. It's not about tactics. And most people, especially social media followers, right, they're going to chase fads, right? They're going to chase what's the hip workout, what's the new fad diet, what's a hack, or what's something that's low effort that I can get an immediate return on, but they don't actually focus on identity. And so I wanted to get your opinion on this, or your definition. What does identity-driven performance actually mean? And how does someone rebuild their identity from the ground up in that positive, proactive way without the tricks?
That's a phenomenal question, Michael. And I think it's packed with so much. That word is misused by so many people. Your identity is your values. Your identity is what you're essentially going to become, and knowing that you have the capacity to achieve it. So, for example, we've all been called to achieve something in life. So I'm a Christian, so God did not create us and put life into our body and put his breath of life just to exist, to play this weird game of it's going to be hard for you, but not hard for you. We're just playing different cards, and you just have to play the cards that you've been dealt with according to how your DECA card looks like. Sometimes you have to fold, sometimes you have to play your cards. And I don't play poker, so I don't even know what the other part is. But I understand that there's bluffing, and then there's playing, and then there's folding. That's pretty much what I understand. So your identity is your calling. What are you called to do? And for me, I stressed a lot when I was a child. For example, I was trying out for basketball. And I was this tiny little kid, but yet I knew that sport was a part of my identity. I just knew it was part of my calling. And I wanted to play endurance sports. That's what I was built for. I was this kid, I was bullied in school, and it's almost like I was I was blessed by it. Those guys would never catch me. They would try to beat me up, and I would run away. And that's how I learned really that I would have this capacity to run long distances and have this endurance. And these guys would just run after me during recess. And the way I look at it is now I use this to build this form of peace in terms of my calling. So identity is rooted in your values, which generate some capacity based on the resistance that you're going with and what you're gonna handle. So for me, I think there's a lot of people that this should be in the 8 to 4 business and should work, should not work during the weekends. And for me, that's just not how I was built. I like to work on weekends. I like to work all the time. Like there's constantly, I'm driven. And so it's a constant battle in my head where now it's like an endurance event, even in the workplace. But is it working for me? Well, definitely, because we're now doing very well as a company. So it's working for me, and somebody else that would jump in my shoes, they might not do as well. So again, based on my values, which I had to root them for me, I had to root them in Jesus Christ. That's where I rooted them. I place my values before my goals, because when you go see a coach, an advisor, a consultant, or even just someone that gives you some advice, these people might say, well, pick a goal. But if you pick that goal and you don't have good values, then you're going to end up being in the wrong in the wrong goal, in the wrong direction. Maybe your goal is not to run 10K or marathons. Maybe your goal is to flip cars. Maybe your goal is to be doing CrossFit or High Rocks or all of these other races. For me, I was just built for ultra endurance event, and I had to really understand that my values became my identity. And now I had to live by it. That's it. To me, that's what the word identity means.
Out of curiosity, is it just a follow on to what you were saying, just to clarify identity? Do you believe that with new information and with personal growth, that identity can change?
It shifts. It shifts. So your identity based on your values would become more tightened. So you pick a set of values, can be any religion, any form of belief, and then they essentially shift. They shift to a more accurate meaning or a more precise down path way of living. So
So your values become more complementary to the identity or vice versa?
Essentially, you're becoming that person that you were meant to be by changing your values and aligning with them. But you were always that person. I was always that person that was built for endurance event. God had told me in 2009, you're going to be doing triathlon. You are going to be doing long endurance event. I just chose to not follow what he was saying, which was against my values, because my values are you should obey God. And I chose not to go with it. I still remained an ultra endurance athlete. When I went to, there was an event that we did for fundraising, and it was like 24 hours. They were running around the University of Victoria, and we had to do relays. And I did not do the entire loop, but everybody knew that I was an ultra endurance athlete. They just knew it. And I just chose at that moment to sit around, play football with all the other people. I played basketball with all the other people. So again, my identity, everybody saw it. It's like, the way I could put it, another way is people will see your identity. They'll see it in you immediately, but you are unable to, or sometimes you do, but you're unable to really grasp it and follow through on all the demands, because it takes a lot to become that version of yourself that is going to accomplish all the tasks that God has put in you. It's going to require a lot. Some people, they break a leg, they keep running, they lose all their money, they still want to build businesses, they have a divorce, they still keep going and learning more and more, but your identity is still rooted in something that is based on your values, which your value drives that identity to become. So you were always that person. It's just that you have to accomplish these tasks to become that.
I think that's where you draw the parallel. Then now I understand when you use the word calling, right? Because your identity is calling to you. You have to do the work to fulfill your identity based on your values. And if you're ignoring the values that you know are inherent to that outcome of identity, then from your perspective, that is suboptimal performance.
Yeah, exactly. You're not delivering the best version that the world is to see.
I understand.
God has given you a calling. God has given you tasks to accomplish. And if that task for today is to open up a bakery shop, and you're supposed to be the best baker, then become the best baker. That's it. But if you are scared because, well, most bakery shop, or not just bakery, but most shops that are in restoration, they're not going to do well, and they might go out of business in the next 2 years. And you look at the finance. That's what I did. I looked at finances. I prayed to God. God said, go do ultra event triathlon. I prayed and I said to God, there's no money in it. Yeah, there's no money in it. Like, why would I go into this? And God essentially redirected me, and I eventually ended up in the Epic DECA and doing all of these events that now I don't even, someone talks to me about any race, I admire them, right? I think it's phenomenal. They're accomplishing all these races. But the other day, I had a client who told me about a 100-mile race. And to me, there's just no hype. Like, I'm excited for him, like, definitely. But for me, I think it's just another day at the office. So for me, it just became that identity.
Yeah, and that's true. I think for a lot of people, when there's certain skill sets, or to use your phrase, a calling, it is interesting. And I sometimes find myself doing that within my profession. I will have people telling me about, I don't know, an issue related to nutrition. And I'm like, it's really not that hard for me. But for you, I understand that this is very, very challenging for you to, I don't know, cut added sugar. I feel like that's something that I'm contending with every single day, is people who are addicted to sugars. And for them, it's so hard. Like, it's physically, like, I can see on the camera, I can see on our coaching sessions that they're struggling with not eating more than 25 grams of sugar, of added sugar, at least in a day. And for me, it's so easy, but my empathy is high because I knew what it took for me to get to where I am. And I know that I can at least get them there. So no, maybe they're not going to be doing 10 Ironmans in 10 days nutritionally, which for a lot of people, they think that me not eating added sugar or processed foods, unless I'm at a restaurant and I don't know, but in my home, that we don't have packaged foods in our house. But for a lot of people, it's very, very, very challenging to do. And I have a significant amount of empathy. And I also am so excited when they hit little milestones. So I have a client, he's been with me for many years. I trained him and his wife. And he used to be addicted to cream soda. And I'm talking about, like, he was doing like a 2-liter bottle. So we're talking, 130, 150 grams of sugar in a day. And now he's at the point where he's got one of those carbonated water machines at home, and he just flavors it with a zero calorie, zero sugar flavor, or a lemon or a lime. or something of that nature. He's found alternatives. I think that shows that progress. And as a segue, stewardship, right? That's an example of stewardship is in progress. And you use that word a lot. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that because I also use that word. I say we have to be a good steward of our bodies. I work with a missionary. She's been with me for probably 5 years now. In fact, I see her tomorrow. She's been on this really good focused stewardship of her body and taking personal responsibility. So I want to talk to you about your perspective on that, since you talk about stewardship. And it's not so much about just a goal. There's a very different mindset than the modern fitness culture, which is always, it's an extrinsic goal. Like, well, I want to do X within X time, right? And it's almost always, I want to lose this much weight in X time. And the time stamp that they put on it is almost always unreasonable. But aside from that, in the modern fitness culture, how does viewing the body as something that you steward, not something that you fix, change behavior long term?
I like the question. I would say you must fuel for what your goals are. The person swimming for 24 hours is not going to fuel the same way as a person who's sitting on a couch. See, I tell my son wanted to eat candies, loves candies, loves sugar. And I told him that eating too much candies is not good for your body unless there is a purpose. Okay. And even then there is a thing as too much, but when the too much comes, that's when your body is extracting it. So my son started doing half marathons. My son started doing long endurance races. And he said, well, during those races, can I eat as much sugar as I want? And I said, yes, because your body is going to use it. So, and we put a resource together. It's free, and then we'll pass you the link so that people can get it. And it's based on an acronym, which is FUEL. So the F which stands for fuel for the effort. Because like I said, to me, training for a half marathon or half Ironman or all of these races, I was fueling much differently than a guy that had to flip a car. Right? I was not eating 4 chickens per day. I was not eating 7 meals per day. Even I got even so intrigued with veganism. So I became vegan, fully vegan. I would not even touch even cross-contaminated food. If it said on the box, may contain, I would put it back. That's how strict I was about the diet, because I understood that my digestive level had to be at peak when I am at these events. So my body had to be completely empty and not digesting for 8 hours a giant steak. So I shifted even my nutrition for these ultra endurance events. Now, would I recommend becoming vegan? That's a personal choice that you can make for yourself. However, when I started testing biomarkers, and that's what we do at the centers, it was flagrant that my testosterone level was so low that I was this close to becoming one of those cases that had to do TRT, like testosterone replacement therapy.
Yes.
I applied for it. I got approved. And then I said, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to shift something. And I shifted my diet. And within a month, my testosterone level, we tested the biomarkers immediately through the roof. So again, based on what you're doing. So that's what I'm saying. Fuel for the effort. So for that person, that particular individual, let's take him for example, right? We usually use John Smith, right? Pretty common name. So John Smith is addicted to that cola that you talked about, that cream soda, right? Well, I know that for me, I just ran the entire circumference of the capital of Kenya against Kenyans in December, like a couple months ago. I took in an excessive amount of pop. And if I took my shirt off right now, which I'm not going to, you could still clearly see that I have a defined physical athletic body. So Am I in good health? I would say so. I would say I'm in one of the best shape of my life, and I'm turning 40 in a few months. So I fuel for the effort. Okay, so that's the F. U is understanding the digestion, right? And I talked about it earlier. For me, I knew that my body during an Ultraman, it's like 3-day event. You got 12-hour cutoff. You don't have time to start digesting a giant steak or anything that is heavy in protein and fat. You don't have time. So you pack on as much carbs as you want. And if I gave that same diet to someone that is at altitude, they would lose weight, or someone that is not doing any physical effort, being on the couch all the time, drinking cream soda like John Smith, well, this guy would wait. It would be unhealthy. But for me, I understand that I have to digest everything much faster because I was doing ultra endurance event. For that person, if we look at, that's what I learned with the Epic DECA. Okay. I did the math. I was spending roughly 10,000 calories per day during the Epic DECA. So I'm doing an Ironman, spending 10,000 calories. The very next day, I'm doing 10,000 calories. And imagine, of course, I lost a lot of weight. Why? Because, well, what's the most you've seen like a person pack on in terms of like nutrition, right? You're the expert here. What would you say? 3,000, 4,000 calories per day at a max?
If it's somebody who is in bodybuilding or maximal performance for physique, it can reach up to 6,000 calories reasonably in a day.
Excellent. So I love that number. Why? Because it's below 10.
Yeah, right.
It's below 10. So that means no matter what you do, you will always be able to spend more energy than intake. And we're talking about a bodybuilder. You just said it. You're the expert. That person, okay, when you're bodybuilding and you're going to the extremes. If you're trying to cut, you're almost dying because you have no calories. And
There's
if you
an
try
oscillation.
to bulk, if you try to bulk, you're at the point of looking at a piece of chicken and eggs and you want to puke it. That's the point that you're reaching. And you mentioned about 6,000 calories, which is not even close to 10. So that proves clearly that anyone out here listening to this podcast is able to spend more energy than they're intaking. Even if you go, and we could even look at, and right now we're talking to an expert in nutrition and fitness, but we could talk about to doctors that do IV, or it's not going to happen. You can spend more energy. Now, over time, your hormonal level is going to change. Your cortisol level is going to get too high because you're spending too much energy. And that's where it brings the E. E is in their energy stability. So stable energy, what it does, it allows the athlete, anyone, and I say athletes, but it can be anyone, to maintain that focus for the output, for all of these goals that you're trying to achieve. You need to have that energy stability. If all of a sudden you wake up in the morning and you're going into meetings and you're packing a beautiful smoothie, lots of maybe some berries, and maybe you're packing some even maple syrup, and you want to focus, you're going to be extremely alert, but it's not sustainable energy. You're just packing on easy carbs. And if you're packing it with a coffee on top of that, it's going to go right through you with the digestive system. So now you're not fueling for the effort because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be on meetings. Right? I'm not fueling the same. I had a giant steak before I got onto this meeting, which again boosts your creatine level, boosts your fat, protein, and it gives me more energy. So again, that's energy stability. But if I took on a lot of carbs before I got onto this meeting, I might be too hyper. I might have to leave. There's a different way to use that energy, and that's what I understood. And then for the L is long-term recovery. Because you must recover. Fueling, it's not just about the workout. I see a lot of people just saying, well, I want to cut on a certain type of food, or I want to work out for this. There are these athletes that have to do it, like bodybuilders, like elite athletes, Olympians, they have to do it. But for the majority of the people, for this John Smith, he doesn't need to. He can recover much faster, right? To build up on it. That's how your body regain all of that energy.
I think that it's really interesting that you used high level, almost like top 1% athleticism related to nutrition and using your fuel model, because I just wanted to make a quick side note for anybody who's listening or watching, that is what it takes in caloric intake to be able to perform at that level, but it has to meet that criteria. And I just want to bring it back down to the average person real quick so that they understand that you drinking soda because you're going to go work out is a good idea. No. That's not what we're saying. JD and I are not saying that that's true, because we're talking about extreme output in comparison to the average output. So let's just break this down real quickly, and then we'll move on, because I have a really interesting addition to what JD was just talking about. I have another question just popped into my mind, but I just want anybody who's listening being like, okay, now I'm confused. Okay, so 6,000 calories or 10,000 calories, and I can drink soda. I know it sounds confusing. It really isn't, but just put aside your social media education for just a second, and let's bring it back to the reality. When I'm saying that for bodybuilders, figure competitors, or people who are trying to pack on as much lean muscle tissue as possible, and even JD had mentioned, they look at steak and eggs and they get sick, or chicken and eggs. Yeah, you do, because how much more can you eat? 6,000 calories of chicken is a lot of chicken. And what he's talking about here is a differentiation in need, right? So you have to fuel for your performance. So when I take on a new client, or I have a client who has a new goal, the first thing that I ask is, what do you want to accomplish? And what's funny is they're like, well, I want to work out. No. What do you want to accomplish? Because I will build the workouts, but I can't build the workouts till I know how we're going to fuel the workout. Your nutrition is going to be the driver, at least physiologically. Your attitude is going to be the engine is going to be the attitude, right? But the driver, well, I guess maybe it'd be vice versa, right? So the engine is going to be your goal, and then the driver is going to be your attitude. That's going to drive whether or not you're going to actually get there. So that's probably a better way of describing this. But if you are somebody who is wanting to accomplish a certain goal, and you come to a professional, they're going to want to know what that goal is precisely, and then they're going to build the workout protocol around it. And then they'll tell you, well, how do you fuel it? That's the very first thing. The other thing too is understanding how your body digests. This is really important, because if you are somebody who wants to maintain general health in the middle, then understanding digestion is equally important to somebody who is wanting to do ultra marathon, or somebody who wants to be a bodybuilder. But it's different. It's different focus and different outcome. I'll explain really briefly. If you want general maintenance and understanding your digestion, then you don't have the luxury of high cost foods and calories and sugar, because you're not going to be using them, because the activities don't support the fuels. You're overfilling your tank. And what happens if you overfill your tank at a gas station? It makes a giant mess, and it's dangerous, right? Now, if you're an athlete doing, let's just say it's an Ironman, and you have a bottle of soda the night before, which the way that you carb load, I just want to make sure that everybody's listening, because everybody's a critic now. And so we're using generalizations here, not specificity, right? So carb loading is a complicated process, and JD and I could probably do a whole nother podcast on the whole process of nutrition leading up to these major events. We could do it now, but for the interest of time, I want to make sure that everybody understands we're talking in generalizations here. We're not getting into the minutia. But if you have a soda and you're an endurance athlete, your body's going to use that fructose and glucose really quickly, because fructose goes to the liver and then it's converted to glucose, and your body's going to want to use it. And then it can go to glycogen if you don't use it, right? And then glycogen too much, and then you know how it all goes. And those of you who are sedentary understand that, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I'm gaining body fat, because you don't have an energy output that warrants it. It's not necessary. It's too much. But on the flip side, for bodybuilders, it's the same. They have to hit a certain energy intake, but that energy intake has to be able to create cellular resynthesis. So they have to be able to hypertrophy. They have to be able to replace the cell. So you have to eat according to your need. And I think that if you understand how your body digests that food is really a critical point. So thank you for that one. The E, well, that's interesting.
Energy stability.
Yeah, energy and stability. So this is where I think people get completely thrown off. When it comes to stabilizing energy, you have to be able to do this in a sustainable way. So it has to be lifestyle inclusive. You can't just go crazy and expect to have sustainable results, or at least reasonably sustainable results. However, there is opportunity, and I don't use the word cheat meals. I use the word planned indulgences. There are times where when you are planned within your structure, that you can say, okay, I realize that on Saturday, I'm just using birthdays as an example. I'm going to have a slice of cake. I don't know why anyone would do that, but I know that people love cake. I simply don't, but that's fine. So, but let's just say it's cake, because most people like cake, especially if you're Richard Dean Anderson, and especially playing Jack O'Neill in Stargate SG-1. Cake was the
I
thing.
love cake. I love cake.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
sugar.
yeah.
I love sugar. I eat
But
sugar a lot of sugar.
yeah,
Yeah,
but the thing is that your body's utilizing it, and that's the difference, JD, between you
exactly.
and the average
So
person.
I'm not
You're
saying that
blowing
they
it.
can't eat it, right?
No,
Which
no, no, no.
is exactly what a lot of people are saying in the medical field or in everywhere. They're saying, well, just cut off sugar. Well, just cut off everything that you like, everything that tastes good. I'm saying, right? And that's proven fact. The output can be greater than the intake, even if you take it at the extreme. Meaning, I'm telling people to move.
Yeah, you got to move,
Yeah, if you
because your
move,
body will use it.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Now,
you move, you get to
yeah,
use it, which is even better. Now, based on proportion as well. Don't go to Planet Fitness and eat like a pizza because you ran on a treadmill for 5
right,
minutes. Right?
right.
That's again, your caloric intake must be lower if you want to lose weight. On the other hand, if you want to gain weight, well, your caloric intake has to be much higher. So again, what are you fueling for? Right. So yeah,
Right.
exactly. Right. So it's
And that's
based on
my
that.
point. Yeah, it's exactly right. We're on the same page here. It's like, but I would say, I would submit this, that the source of the food does matter. If you're in really good shape, or you're having a planned indulgence, and you have a slice of cake, it's not the end of the world. That's where I was going. Is like, the problem is if you're doing it every single day and the output is lower than the intake. That's where we have a major problem. And then you also have to look at the source of the food. Is it quality food? A homemade cake is almost inevitably going to be better than a store-bought cake in just general nutritional principles. But I think all of this is really important, because I wanted people to understand that what we're talking about here is a vast generalization. And so don't just think that, oh my God, I have to do this and I have to do that. No, we're saying is that you have to eat according to your need. That's what the fuel principle is outlining. And so I'm just basically trying to generalize, I guess not pedestrian this, but make it so that everybody understands that what JD was talking about here, when he was talking about a 10,000 calorie, 6,000 calorie day, that is for elite level performance, that is beyond anything that more than 1% of the entire population is even going to participate in general. So if you are somebody who's sitting on your butt, you don't get to have 6,000 calories a day. That's where I was going.
Yeah. Well, I think we're on the same page on that
I
one.
mean, unless
Right?
you want to be obese.
Unless
And
you're building
c'est
for
la
this,
vie.
and that's the thing,
And
right?
c'est la vie. But you know what? So I wanted to bring it back into something else too. Like, since you talked a lot about your faith, and I know that nowadays it seems like such an adversarial thing for people to discuss, and people get so angry about, anybody who has any kind of particular faith. And we don't really talk about that much on this podcast. So let's do it now. Your work emphasizes a lot of faith, and the faith dives into discipline, and there's a huge service driver along with it. And but I wanted to just dig a little bit into this just for fun. Why do you believe purpose and faith create stronger physical and mental resilience than motivation alone?
I'll build on what history has proven, and then we'll prove it with also neuroscience. But I'll go back to the acronym. So the first one is, based on history, it's proven that people are willing to go up to death based on their faith. Whatever it may be, we look at the Bible, some people were willing to die because of a god named Baal. It wasn't the right one according to the Bible, but they were willing to do it, right? So it proves that people are willing to do that. In terms of neuroscience, before a decision is made, which goes in on our prefrontal cortex, which has been proven through EEGs, before it gets even there, you must make a story in your mind. There must be some form of belief. And that belief comes in the parietal part of your brain, which now drives these decisions. So you must have that form of story, and then you're able to make those decisions. Hence why a lot of people take very poorly or in the wrong way or the wrong context words that are in the Bible. They're misusing it to conduct some atrocities and go against what is the will of God. Finally, based on the acronym, when you fuel for the effort, okay? When you're fueling for the effort, you're not being a lukewarm Christian. If that's what your goal is that you want, that's what God despises. He despises a person that is lukewarm. Now, what is a lukewarm person? It's a person that says, I want to lose weight, but I've always eaten this way and I've always lived this way. I'm going to hire a coach and it might work.
Okay. Yeah.
It might work. Right? I'm going to pick up a Bible and it might work. Okay? Look at your Bible. Look at your faith. See what it says and fuel for it. So for me, it's part of my daily habit. I must ingest, I must take in something of God. Now, will it be a YouTube short? Will it be a YouTube video? Will it be a Bible verse? Or will it be an entire chapter? Will it be a prayer? Will it be a meditation? Will it be a calling to God? Will it be running and at the same time thinking only of God and not having any distraction? You see, there are all of these types of things. If you are a pastor, staying one more day or one more hour with someone talking to them isn't going to fuel you. For me, I fuel for my effort. I preached I preached in churches. I preached in slums of Africa. I went to some really, really dangerous places and we still preached, right? So to me, I needed to understand that I needed to fuel in a certain way that I won't be fueling the same way as a pastor. So again, fuel for the effort. Understand your digestion. Well, we look at it in terms of just the physical digestive system, and let's go through all of the parts where the esophagus, and now you get to the stomach, and how does it metabolize? Well, how does it metabolize in your body in a figurative way when you ingest something of God? Are you the type of person that need to meditate because and I'm not naming any medical condition, okay? But if you are overly anxious or overly stressed and you say that you cannot meditate, then maybe you're depriving your system of something that could be beneficial for your outtake, for your goal. So again, how are you digesting it? Is it going to take a while? And you can go back to understanding your digestion, your energy stability. Well, how are you managing your energy levels in terms of faith? See, so it all comes down, and then we go to longevity because you want to do it over and over and over again. How is it impacting the life of people around you? How are you fueling? Right? You want to get feedback on this, and the feedback is by living according to those values. So it goes back to the same exact, I'm just proving through history. I'm showing you how the Bible looks at it. And I'm also giving the listeners the step process on how to look at it, not just in terms of your body and nutrition of what you eat, but it's really what you see, what you hear, right? We use that, isn't there like a little kid's song? Be careful, little eyes, what you see, and little ears, what you hear.
Yeah, I think I vaguely remember something like that from my youth. Yeah.
Right. So if you are right fueling, well, you're fueling for let's go with John Smith back again, who wants to have a healthy marriage. That's his end goal. Maybe he's going through a tough time. And now he thinks that because he's going to quit that cream soda and lose 50 pounds or whatever amount of kilogram and look with a stunning body, that he's going to bring her back. Well, what destroyed that relationship in the first place was because he was watching certain things at night or during the day, even putting sometime his job on the line because he was watching certain content online that isn't appropriate or that isn't in line with what his partner is seeking in terms of having a close relationship. So again, how are you fueling? It's not just in terms of your digestive system, but in terms of what are you seeing? What are
Right.
you hearing?
I just want to make sure that I'm clear. You had mentioned, I'd read something that you had written related to faith being more powerful than motivation because motivation is fleeting. And you're saying, from what I think you're saying is that the content that you consume should be fueling your faith, and then that faith reinvigorates you and it keeps you resilient to wanting to quit or wanting to go astray against your goals. Am I understanding that correctly?
We're circling back to the identity component.
So if you're somebody of faith or you're somebody who's looking for motivation, whatever it is, but just to stay on the faith thing because it's really interesting. And you use Christianity, which is fine, but there's so many other religions as well, and much to their chagrin, if you actually study religion, which I did, there's a lot of crossover in the concepts, but and that I think that's where religions start to get mad is because they start disagreeing on things that they agree on, which is it's amazing to me. But I don't really care about what the doctrine is for the sake of this conversation. I'm more concerned with like the broad concept of faith, which is an interesting concept in general. I just want to make sure that I got this correctly, was that if you feed your faith with wholesome content, like you said, just a YouTube short, maybe you listen to a sermon or you listen to somebody who is in line with what your ethical and moral position is, right? Whatever I mean, or even a religious perspective, and those things can sometimes intertwine, and they usually do. But if you were to really look at those things and you're digesting that kind of content, then the outcome is that you're going to execute at that level, and it's that resilience resounds in your mind. And so you're always on the path of progress along the boundaries of your faith. And if you don't, like you're using the John Smith example, if you are watching content that is maybe destructive or deleterious, then you're off the path and you're going to be lost in the woods.
Definitely. That guy, John Smith, if he reads in the Bible, it says that your body is the temple of God. So if that person just so happened to be Christian, and it says in the Bible, your body is to be the temple of God, well, it's not just in terms of eating and in terms of hearing. It's in terms also of what you put inside of your body.
It's your senses.
So a lot of those somewhat addictions are going to leave because now you're trying to please a being that for the majority of, well, not the majority because there's a lot in India, but the main religions, it's a being that is outside of space, time, and matter. So we're looking at Buddhism, Islam, and we're also looking at Christianity.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
In that sense, you're trying to please someone that has a strict set of rules. For example, Islam cannot eat a certain type of meat or cannot consume certain liquids. If that's what your beliefs are, then albeit it's not hurting anyone in that specific context. But again, it drives your perspective. Now you want to accomplish what is said in the Bible, what is said in the Quran, or you want to achieve that because you want to please a being that is not based on just personal experiences. It's based on all of these books that have been written for thousands of years, and now they are in with you. And I think the Bible is fascinating because it's many letters that were written by different people, all saying the same thing that intertwines into one book that somehow just coincide to be, I mean, it's either a coincidence or it's from God. You can view it the way that you want. I choose to believe that it comes from the Holy Spirit.
Well, that's where faith comes in, doesn't it not?
That's where faith comes in, is because, well, you have beliefs that are not seen, and you must have these beliefs in your life that are what you want to achieve in your life. How do you see your life right now that is different than the way that it is right now? Because there are different wills. There's the will of God, which is not going to change. There is the will of God for your life, for your environment, and there is the will of God for your life. Like, what is the will of God for your life? And I think that's the point of this conversation right now, is what's What's that will of God? If God was in front of you, he was a being, religious or not, he was in front of you and he said, are you using your body, your mind to the fullest of its capacity? I placed you on this earth for a reason. Are you A, doing whatever, are you using it to its full capacity? And B, are you pleasing me? Because if you can't beat me, like I'm God, right? I like in the sense of like the analogy, like I'm not God. I know I'm not God, but
I knew what you meant.
okay, he's God. He's saying he's in front of you and he's saying, I'm God. Are you pleasing me? And by using your body to its fullest capacity. And when you have that shift in your brain, you want to please God. You don't want to please your wife. Eventually your wife will come back. I mean, if that's what you want in a relationship, okay? She will come back to you because you're following a strict set of commands. You're following a strict set of rules. For example, I talked about watching certain content that is inappropriate in a relationship if you want to have a close relationship.
Mm.
That is against the seventh commandment, which is later talked about by Jesus when he said, if you lust on a woman, you have committed adultery. Not if you look at another woman, just looking at her and saying, well, she's beautiful. We're talking about looking and lusting. So if you lust on another woman, that's where the sin comes in. So now you're saying, well, I don't want to displease God. What? Okay. Maybe there are women listening to this podcast going, well, that's the type of man I wanted, was the type of guy who watches this content with other partners. That's fine. Okay. You can have your own views. But what it does is it drives you to achieve certain things that allows that being, call it the universe, call it God, call it whatever you want. I choose to call it, call him God. Okay. God is now able to place certain things in your life for you to have maybe this platform to speak about it, he places you in certain situations where now you're being tested and now your faith is going to be tested, meaning you're going to get stronger, more character, more resilience, and then you're going to build your faith. Once you build your faith, you're going to look at, well, I can do a 5K. I can do a 10K. Oh, wow. I've proved it many, many, many times. I have a video on YouTube is we took a kid and he could barely see.
Mm.
And his last wish, okay, was to run the race with his school, and the race turned out to be it was a relay race.
Mhm.
We had our own car. Turned out he ran, walk and jog 21 kilometer. That's a half marathon for all the listeners in the States. So a kid that was blind, that was drilled in the head and had all sorts of scars. And we did not even know if he was going to live another few months because of the fueling, the strategy, and the way that we didn't even push him. He kept on going. So I would say the majority of people, are able to do a half marathon with the proper training, with the proper coach, the proper equipment, all of this being together. But that kid had so much faith or so much belief in the outcome that he was willing to push his body to its own limit. And now it's on YouTube. It's a personal best for him. He loved it and he still talks about it. So I would say you're able to accomplish so much more. There's nothing magical about JD. There's nothing. I am not a unicorn at all. I am not this person that is, I'm born with different genetics. Okay. And in a sense, I am born with a different, not genetics, I'm born with different capacity.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm born to be a leader, that's who I must be. If I'm born to be a pastor, which I'm not, then I must become a pastor. If I'm born to be a gym owner, then I become a gym owner. That's it. And I ran away from my calling for years until I got back to it. And when I got back to it, that's when your faith increased. Because now you're able to believe in something of a higher power, a higher calling. You want to please that being. That's what you want to do. You want to please that being. So now you have all the things of the world in front of you. You have it. Eventually you reach a point in we're doing very well financially and my health. I'm doing very well in all these things. But if I misuse it according to the values of what God is saying, then essentially I see it that I'm going to get punished. So I must use it to the best of its abilities. So that's somewhat of a circle back to how faith is moving.
If I dissect something out of that, which is that people separate spirituality and performance, and you don't, you put them all together and you feel like the consumption of faith-based content fuels that. And then there's a conglomeration. There's no separation, that you don't need external motivation. You don't need to go on Instagram to find a hot girl, if you're a girl that you want to look like, or a guy who's super jacked that you want to look like. All you need to do is have faith and basically stop separating your spirituality from your performance, and you should be okay. Is that a pretty bow on that?
Yeah. And even the guys, I look at guys online, I look at their body, right? I want to have that type of body. But again, am I lusting on it? Well, no, that's not,
No.
there's a huge disconnection with it. So
Yeah, I understand.
am I looking at girls online? Well, yeah, I can see that there are lots of attractive females, and I love women. I think they are beautiful. But again, are you lusting on them? There's the disconnection that needs to happen. And that's where, to me, it's not just in terms of athletic, that what are you having your intake, but also in your faith as well. So yes, you're correct. I don't disconnect either, or I think your physical performance and all your performance in life can be driven by that faith. Definitely.
Got it.
For sure.
Yeah. This is the first time we've ever really talked about anything religious or faith-based on this podcast. I do want to shift gears here real quick. So you have operated in military environments. You've competed in these very extreme events, which I have a lot of admiration for. I would not do them. And that may be part of why I have admiration, because I know what it takes and I'm not willing to do it. And the fact that you are, hey, hats off. Like, that's fantastic. But I have a question for you. Because we're talking about extreme endurance here. What actually happens to the mind under this extreme physical load? And what's made you a champion in your field?
Going through difficult times and being willing to go all the way up to and including death.
So essentially, when someone hits what they think is their absolute limit, whether it be physically or mentally, you have a different way of working with that.
I see it as motivation. For me, watching someone on the sideline yelling at me saying, "Yay, go, keep going." It's almost similar to this drill sergeant that is yelling at you, telling you to do more. So to me, I'm seeing it in a completely different way, where that person is telling it to me in the way that they want, which they think I'm perceiving it as an encouragement, which is a light encouragement. Keep going. Enjoy yourself. Finish the race. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking about it in terms of, you're horrible. What are you doing? Keep working at it. Do more push-ups. Like that type of deal. So it's a different mindset and a different perception. I think everything is based on perception, how you're using your capacity to better the world. But you have to look inside and say, this is the person I want to be, and not worry about what others are going to say, whether it's positive or negative, because I've received more negative for the Epic DECA than positive. So
do you think that you also are you in your own head space? Do you find yourself saying more negative comments? I want to follow up on something you just said, because you got all these people on the sidelines. People are saying, keep going, finish the race. But in your head, you're like, you piece of shit, you better do more. You have to do better. Like, is that what you're thinking? Is that what gets you through?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what gets me through. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Have you ever discovered what it is? What's the catalyst for that internal self-dialogue? I've known a lot of incredible endurance athletes, none that have ever done what you've done, like at least to the 10 and 10. That's incredible. But I have noticed that there is an overarching theme in endurance athletes where their internal dialogue tends to be incredibly self-critical. Have you found that true among your peers as well?
Definitely. I even said it in an interview once, and it went to the newspaper, and I said that most people that do these endurance events have mental problems. So it is very common. I would say that I fit in a category that is extremely self-critical, and I have to be very careful not to push it onto others, that I need to showcase myself as, this is who I want to be. Here's the limit. Here's what the human body can achieve. Please achieve your best. So essentially bring it down to some place where there's a humbleness, like some form of way that I am humble and say, this is the place I am. Please achieve your race. Finish your race. So the way I could put it is the majority of people see for themselves what they can achieve. And then for the other people, they see what you have achieved. So for you, you're looking at me from the lens of the Epic DECA. The Epic DECA, there's only 3 people in the entire world that did this, that finished it. You're looking at me with my achievement. But for me, I'm looking at myself thinking, and that's for, I would say, the majority of people. We look at ourselves like, oh, I did not achieve this. Oh, I should achieve this. So one good way to do it is, if it's too much for you, if it cripples you, then start small. And Dr. Jordan Peterson says it in his book. And he says, do your bed. That's one of the chapters. And although it seems like such a benign activity to do your bed, all it shows is a way to start the day with a little bit of dopamine to say, congratulations. Congratulations, John Smith. You've accomplished something. You're not going to be JD Tremblay. Just take that out of your head. The race doesn't even exist anymore, so the Epic DECA doesn't even exist. It was only for their 10-year anniversary. So I'll only be just the 3 people. That's it. Achieve your race. What is your race? Well, right now I'm going through a tough time. Well, how about you start with the basic? The JD talk about fueling, right? Run that fuel in your mind. Okay, what is F? Right? Go back to essentially your foundation. Okay. You have to go through, am I fueling for the effort? Am I fueling my brain properly? Is that what I'm doing? Right? So I constantly have to go through this step process. Even in my mind, I have to do this. But again, it's just a different perspective. Is it bad? I see it as something constructive. That's the way I see it. I see it as something constructive because it gets the job done. Does it hurt my body? It does if you think about it in a negative way. In a negative way, it is a bad frequency or a negative frequency. But if you think about it in a positive way, for example, 2 guys at the gym trying to lift or outlift one another in a healthy competition, right? They're trying to outperform the other, and well, it's going to hurt, but they will have to think that they're better than the other person. They will have to think that the other person is maybe yelling at them, or so again, it could be seen as a negative view, but it created some of the best bodybuilders and strong men out there in the world, is because we are putting ourselves in teams and trying to outperform each other based on the perception that we're receiving.
Yeah, I'll tell you that is, and your analogy is interesting because I've been 25 years in the fitness industry and I've seen how their mindset is. And I have another question for you now too, based on everything that you just said. Now that I've got a better understanding of your thought process, and I can't help but get my fitness coaching thought process going here. I want to know something. Tell me about the last time that you quit. Like you just said, I'm not going to finish the race. I'm done. I'm quitting. I'm done. Was that quit? If you did, was the quitting, was it up in your head or was it your body? Your body just gave out.
That I quit. Well, I talk about it in my book. I love the way that I finished my book by not finishing the Ultraman World Championship. So to me, it was a DNF. Now, did I quit? Yeah, I guess I did not quit. It was the cutoff, and my team disqualified me. But then I got to other races.
Yeah, but like the last time, no, I actually I knew about that, but tell me about a time that when you're in your own space and you quit.
That I quit. I think I quit every day. I quit every day for certain things. I've been wanting to do certain tasks online, and then all of a sudden, my brain just says, no, you must be in the mountain. And then I just quit, and then I go in the mountain. And then I think you need to be understanding of your own physiology. If you are, then you're capable of shifting it and understanding that this is what your body needs right now. For example, sometimes I need to just get off my computer and just go in the mountain, or I need to go in like a cold tub. Like I need to. Like this it's just a need. And so all of a sudden I'm on the computer and I just go in the cold tub. Is it quitting? Well, I'm quitting every day in small doses. In terms of a race,
Yeah, but we all do.
yeah, well, they see it. Some people see it as distraction. Some people say they have certain types of mental illness or they get certain medication out of it. And what they try to do, in essence, is they're just trying to take a medication to get you to do that thing over and over again, even more intensive. So some people,
Or to not care about it anymore.
well, they don't see the value of the outcome. That's what it
Yeah.
is.
To
They
say
just
that's my
don't.
problem. I'm glad that you brought that up. But what we quit in small things, but like I wanted to give some people hope here, right? You was talked about you quit on little things in life, and I said, "Oh, damn, that's such a good catalyst for this conversation." There are daily practices that we can use to build up mental resilience before life tests them. What I'm concerned about is that people are outsourcing their wellness. They're outsourcing their mental resilience. And they're outsourcing it to pharmacies that don't actually solve the problem. People do not want to take personal responsibility. The problem that is they stop caring. They stop caring, and then they create within their own sphere a series of made up traumas. But what I'm saying is that people are not taking control of their lives. They're making excuses. They're blaming somebody else. They're using medication. They're trying to suppress. They're not actually trying to impress themselves with who they are and their identity. And they're not taking all of these things that can lead them to the outcome that would be the most beneficial part of their lives, because they want to be lazy and they want someone else to do it for them. If you take faith out of it and you say, what are some practical things that people can do based on you having achieved things that most people didn't even know existed, like, for example, 10 triathlons in 10 days, what are 3 things that you think that people could take right now, then they can apply it to their life and see some upside within just a couple of weeks of applying the principles that you outlined?
Without faith, meditation, it is one. Meditation can include breathing. Most people don't even know how to breathe, that there are different types of breathing. There are some to excite your system, there are some to calm down your system. So meditation is a huge huge one. How you fuel your system will change your life. So definitely I would go in my mind and go through that acronym constantly. So that definitely, because how you fuel your system is really going to drive your outcome, as we talked about it extensively. And the last one is pain. It's going to be painful regardless of the choices that you make. I was in pain during the epic DECA. At one point, my legs could not even work, and I was in a wheelchair at the airport. It was my birthday. Someone had stole my pants. I had my face all burned up. I was in pain, but I knew the outcome. I knew that this is what I wanted, and I was ready to die. Well, I just didn't end up dying, and that was the outcome. I mean, I'm here, but it is going to be painful if you don't do it as well. So if God has called you to be that fit individual, and you keep ingesting 6,000 calories, and your outtake is 2, there's a high likelihood that you will not achieve the outcome of losing weight if that was your outcome.
Well, it's 100%.
But it's going to be painful. It's going to be
Mhm.
painful. And I think we need to look at it from both perspectives. Like, it's very painful when you are making millions. People think it's very fun. No, your problems are just much bigger. And if you lose that, then other people are losing their job. And if those people lose their job, then we right now with our academy, we sponsor thousands of children, not just sponsor them as in like a $1 kid that we send it over. No, we fund events. And we're in 5 different countries right now, funding thousands of children and their initiatives and giving them opportunities. So if I don't work, and it's painful because I wake up in the morning and as much as I'm having a lot of rewarding text sending, you get these videos from these kids enjoying a soccer match because you funded everything and everybody thinks, wow, I wish I could do these things. Well, first off, I did not start like that. My parents are not rich. My mom is not rich. This isn't a quick rich. It took years and years for us to get to that level.
Mhm.
Was it painful? It's so painful. That's how vulnerable I can get. It's so painful that with everything that I have lived, I still sometimes sleep in odd places, like a closet or like a dark place, or it's very demanding mentally. So I'm trying to be as open as possible, even though we're closing and at the end. What I'm saying is that when you're at any top, it's going to be painful. And when you are in the other end of the spectrum, it's going to be painful. So how about this? Choose your pain. Choose what's going to be painful. That's it. It's going to be painful to be on the couch sitting there, losing your partner because you're overweight and she told you that you need to work out. It's going to be painful. In terms of the pharmaceutical, I think it has its place. And I'm a naturopath. Okay, I'm a practitioner. I strongly believe that it has its place. But again, a lot of people are misusing. And
yeah, that was I want to be clear about that.
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is really important because I can already tell people, people are already fuming because I didn't say it exactly the way they wanted me to say it. I'm not saying that it doesn't have its place. I'm saying you are misusing and abusing it. And suck it up, Buttercup. Life is hard and it's going to be painful. Choose your pain. Exactly what you were saying. No, I'm not saying don't be on this and don't be on that medication. I want to make sure that everybody who's listening to me understands that if you are literally needing this medication and it's improving the quality of your life and you still care, then this is not for you. But for those of you who are misusing and abusing it, using it as leverage for crutching, a social media clout, or just simply to be part of the in crowd of being on whatever medication you choose.
Pain is also being able to hurt people. There's a lot of people that hate me, and I'm okay with it. They killed my savior.
Right.
For being perfect. Okay. And now in their view, it's allegedly. In my view, he was perfect. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pick a path. You have to know that it's going to be painful. There's people that you're going to offend with your show that I'm going to receive some hate mails because I said certain things that people disagree with me. I'm okay with it. And
Same here.
love the haters. One, because they're showing me that I'm on the right path, and all of these other people. So I'm not saying that you said something or that you didn't. Okay, it's just having a conversation, and we don't need to please everybody because that side of the conversation hurts more people when we try to explain every single thing. Because
it's exhausting.
It's exhausting. It's wasting time because really the people need to be told, okay, you are overweight. You need to lose weight. Look at all of these people. They are losing their life because of that. So we need to be able to be in a place, which is great because you're in the States, because you have free speech right now. So for now, right? So it's free speech. And we need to be able to come to a place where we're going to be able to offend people. Because the way that people change is by being offended. It's not by if someone placed $1 million in my account and said, you're going to be going to 5 different countries, you're going to be doing the epic DECA, you're going to be doing all of these things, I guarantee you, I would have not been to where I am today. I've been through some really difficult moments in my life, and that is what formed me. You see, when all of a sudden you get certain events that are very difficult and you get told by someone you're a loser. No girl want to be with you, JD. Look at your body. Look at your life. Look at what you've accomplished. Look at what you have two choice, buddy. Is it painful to hear this? Yes, it is really painful when you get rejected to go on a date, when you're rejected by family members because you said certain things and you did not clarify it or took the extra half hour to explain everything, or because you did not take a jab or took the jab or took one or took two or did not take. You're looking at just unfolding everything and trying to explain yourself. What I do is I don't try to explain myself. I just live. It's going to be painful because there's a lot of people that know me. There's a lot of people that hate me too. I tell people, you think it's easy being known by people? You walk in the street and people just, they heckle at you. They hate you. They don't like certain types of people. Why? Because they're living by a certain standard. You walk by a certain man and he thinks, what, you're going to steal his woman, or you're going to take up the opportunity of another person because of, it's always a constant mental battle. I just live by these principles. That's it. To me, I don't even question it. I just live by it, and it's going to be painful regardless of the choice. It was painful when I was poor. It was painful when I was not doing triathlon. It was painful. Why? Because I was not in my calling. I was not in my identity. Now I live for Christ. That's it. I just live for Jesus. And that's it. You hate me because I say this? Congratulations. Cut it out of your podcast. Cut it out of anything. I'm not saying you will, but I'm just saying, to me, I'm going to live the way that and I said it earlier, that God sees me. God has certain standards. God has certain values. And those values, I live on this earth to repopulate, to make babies, and to talk about Jesus. I already chosen my army. My purpose in life is to choose between evil or Jesus. That's the way that Christianity is. I chose Jesus, and that's it. How does Jesus sees me right now? That's the way I see it. And that's the way that everyone should see it according to their own values. How does your God sees you? How does your person sees you? Am I pushing Christianity onto you? Not at all. I'm saying this is how I'm going to live, Michael. This is how I'm going to live. I'm going to live as a Christian man. If you want to cut it out of your podcast about Christianity, I'm all for it. Sure, go ahead. I have no problem. But I guarantee you, there's one thing that is going to happen is you will remember for the rest of your life that there is this one man that you will, for the rest of his life, you will not remove Jesus from this guy. This guy is rooted with Jesus. Like that's his mentality. That's his faith. That becomes his identity. So to me, am I going to fluster people? I pray, I hope you get offended by this message. Not just you, but everybody else. I hope they get offended, because that's what drives when all of a sudden your wife leaves you. What are you going to do? Right? Everybody knows. You either start drinking or you start going to the gym. It's one of the two. All of a sudden you're going to get an amazing body, or a different body if drinking is your thing, right? So it's up to you, but pain will happen. Pain will happen. If you drink too much, pain will happen. If you become an elite athlete because your wife left you, pain will happen. That's it. To me, hate me. I love it. I love I love it. I love people so much that I'm willing to. We had people even at the center. They're not even Christian. For me, I love people. I love people. It's okay. You hate me? That's fine. But I see myself the way that God wants me to behave. That's it. It's not based on my clothes, not based on my haircut, not based on all the jewelries and the money in my bank account. It's based on how God sees me. See, last year we were supposed to expand. I had to pray about it. Am I buying a new car? Are we expanding? You buying another center and buying? And God put it on my heart. He said, no, you're going to Kenya. There are people, and I'm serious, Michael. It's hard to have sympathy and love for these people. I received hate messages for personally going to Kenya, spending over $30,000 for kids in the slums and in little tiny villages, building houses and water systems. And there's one water system we built, 1,000 people had clean water. Imagine clean water for their, and you're looking at me going, wow, this is amazing. Yes, of course. I think it is. I receive hate messages about my content on this. And all I can say is, how is God seeing me? That's how faith is. Is God proud of me because I'm doing this? Because I'm doing this behavior? Because I'm taking the extra money that we had, all our profit, and just going, all right, we're going to give it to children in a third world country and build some programs and help other. Well, the way I view the Bible, and that's what the Bible talks about, is feed the orphans, feed the orphans, feed the widows. That's exactly what we did. We put on a one meal we fed over, I wanted 200, finally ended up with 400. 400 women showed up. They were widows and crying, and we fed them all. And that's where our profit went. That's where our profit went. Now, if you want to hate me for this, I know I'm talking a lot, but that's because to me, it's on my heart to join both sides because I've done the work. I've fueled my body. But the major part is pain. I'm willing to go through that pain because I've been through. When I was a kid, I was getting bullied. And now it just gets to a point where, does it affect me? It definitely affects me, but not to the intense that part that many would think that they have a pull on me. It fuels me right now. I had this girl who once rejected me. Everything seemed to be aligning, everything seemed to be working, and she rejected me. See, instead of just starting to drink and going, what did I do? I doubled down. Not on her, not to her. The way I saw it was, how is God seeing this relationship? Maybe he's seeing it as he's protecting me. Maybe he's protecting me. And that's it. So I'm not going to explain myself. I'm not going to apologize, excuse myself. I will live in a way that is according to the Bible, in accordance to my faith, which drives my accomplishments. Because yes, I would say that the majority of people can do what I've accomplished. I understand that right now, many people would say, well, I'm not able to accomplish even one Ironman. That's fine. Okay, you can say all you want. Physically, a lot of people would be able to accomplish what I did. Mentally, smaller pool of people, but still, there are some more than 3 people at least that would be able to complete it if it was just based on the physical and the mental aspect. When you look at the spiritual aspect, when you look at faith, when you look at it was the right time. The Epic 5 company made the Epic DECA, so it only happened once in a lifetime. It was that race, and then they were taking only 10 people. I just happened to buy the race registration of another guy who was... So again, it's all based on all of the variables that God has at his... I have to work for it. I had to get that body, right? So I had to do the work. I had to fuel properly. I had to get the mental state right. But God had to do his work as well. There are certain things that God is doing that I'm not seeing. So to me, again, I'll circle back to it and I'll finish with that. You can hate me all you want. I'm not going to apologize. I'm going to live according to how God sees me, even if it goes up to death. That's how serious I am about my faith. And and the best part is about pain. It's going to be painful regardless of where you choose. You're going to choose Jesus. It's going to be very painful. Very, very painful. You're going to have to say no to certain things that are so enticing. So enticing. I really wanted that new car. I can still say it with passion. I really wanted that new car. Now, was it as better than all these thousands of kids that we gave them water? And I have no idea how this is all going to turn out. All I know is that this is what God wanted more than that new car. And I ended up doing this. Is it painful? Yes, it is painful saying no to that brand new car, saying no to that beautiful girl. that you look at her, everything fits, and you're hanging out, and you still follow Christian principle. There's no sleeping together. You're following everything that the Bible says, and still, it's still not enough. It's still, God is protecting you. Is it going to be painful? It's going to be painful if you follow Jesus, but it's also going to be painful on the other side. In my worldview, or in God's worldview, it's hell. That's painful. So maybe you're going to live an amazing life here, but it's hell on the other side. That's up to people. Choose what you want. All I can tell you is whatever decision you are going to make, and I think you nailed it perfectly when you said responsibility. Based on your responsibility, based on your decision, live unapologetically, live according to your values. They might shift to a certain degree, okay? But it's going to be painful regardless what you pick. If you pick the cream soda or not, it's going to be painful, buddy. It's going to be painful. All I'm telling you is use that system that we just talked about. Go get that free resource. It's really free. Just go get it. That's it. And it just explained to you. Fuel. That's it. Run it in your mind. What am I training for? For me, I'm training for an ultra event. If all of a sudden I get to that ultra event, I'm drinking Coke. Am I going to apologize for that? No, I'm not. God is designing me to be in these positions. A lot of endurance athletes are using Coca-Cola to fuel. Now, am I using the whole time to fuel? No, but I'm not going to apologize because I drink a Coca-Cola. I'm going to say, I'm going to live up to the full capacity that God has placed in me because I settled for something less back in the past. In my past, I settled for less. And I still think that I'm not even at my full capacity and I could even improve even more. And I'm improving every day. But I'm not going to apologize for having these set of values of loving Jesus Christ, talking about him. It's painful, yes, but it's going to be painful on both sides. Yep.
Your passion, your enthusiasm, you have an authenticity that I think that the last 7-8 minutes has been the best of the whole podcast. Absolutely right about you have to choose your pain. And do you choose your pain and be well, or do you choose your pain and be unwell? Do you choose your pain and I'll use this as an example, you have no faith, which is painful, or do you have faith and parts of that are equally painful? You have to choose the pain. And I think that we as a society have an aversion to pain because I've said this so many times on the podcast. Most Americans don't know what true pain is. We have manufactured pains. We have things that we just think are painful. We have no context to associate. So you go to Kenya, you see pain, and you're like, this is serious pain. Then you come to downtown Los Angeles and you hear people whining and complaining and you're like, shut up. You have not hurting. You're not in pain in Manhattan. You're fine. Shut up. Sometimes we have to give ourselves perspective. But I wanted to ask you one more question because what you just said was, I think, very powerful. Because that was like a really nice, strong testimony for your faith, and there's a strong testimony for your mindset. And I think that anybody with a brain cell can listen to that and say, hell yeah. And like, let's get on it. I got a question for you, just because I know we're like going crazy on time. I just want to ask you one last question because you're on fire right now. A lot of people in the world are struggling. There's a lot of uncertainty. Let's just talk about, for example, the United States. I think most Americans don't know what's going on. There seems to be things happening in the geopolitical sphere that cause people anxiety. There's things happening within the social economic dynamics in the United States. And I think Canada's accepting a lot of these problems as well. But what I think is happening, this is opinion, and I just want to hear your thoughts on this. I think that social media is artificially fueling fear. And I think that a lot of people are extraordinarily susceptible and they tie themselves into these fear silos, right? Like if it's not this thing that's really popular right now in the news that seems wrong, it's this new thing that's popular. And then they forget about the thing that was happening before. And, the flags and bios change. You know what I mean? Like everybody's so fickle on what they're pissed off about. And so I've been thinking about this for the last couple of years, especially after the pandemic. And I started realizing that people are being really dumb. They're not thinking. They're not stopping and thinking. They're being so emotionally reactive. When the next new thing happens, all of a sudden the bios change to accommodate said new thing. I can't stand it. It drives me nuts. So I think that we live in this new world of like this sense of impending doom every single day we wake up and there's something new. And we're bombing this place, or this place is being bombed, or these people just died, or this flood just happened, and this fire just went out of control. And it's always bad news every single day. But I would encourage people, though, like if you step back and you look at your life is really damn good. It's the best in history ever, in all of human history. We are doing better than ever. You're clothed and you're fed. When I say fed, you have good food if you choose to buy it. I'm going to make that clear. You're probably wearing designer brands. And if not, you're wearing something that is pretty reasonable. You have a home. You have transportation. You have heat. You have water. All your basic needs are met, and we're still not happy. Always unhappy. And people go to social media and they're like, I just can't, I'm going to move out of this country or to this country. And everybody's so angry and so upset. And I can't subscribe to this mass psychosis. I don't do it. I've never have, and I never will. I'm just an independent thinker. I really cannot. And my wife, Heather, she and I, we're peas in a pod. But like stuff starts going on in the world. We're like, all right, well, we got plenty of water. We got solar system. Like I live in the middle of nowhere in Texas. I have a property. I'm not a freak, by the way. I grew up on a dairy farm in the middle of nowhere. My wife is Finnish, and we make bread at home. We have just a different world. And I just feel like there's so much despair, and it bothers me because I'm empathetic, because my entire profession is trying to improve the lives of others. But they're so committed to being miserable that it absolutely can become exhausting as a coach. And I know you coach people and you have so many other things, and now, my clients don't come to me expecting some kind of faith-based, they want scientific rationalization. So I don't have that nice outlet that you do, which is great. And I love that for you. But this isn't about me. I'm just giving an opinion to frame the final question. And it's not even so much a question as I'm wanting to hear what you have to say. For all of those people who are suffering, or they think they're suffering, because they don't understand the difference, for those who feel depressed, or there's a sense of defeat, the uncertainty. There's not necessarily a clear path for them in their life. There's economy is starting to feel a little bit dodgy. All the stocks are down. AI is replacing everything. And it can just get worse and worse. If we just step back and all calm for just 1 second, and we take a deep breath and we consider that ever since I've been alive, and I'm 47, every single, especially election years, the world was ending. And it hasn't yet. It's always this way. It always will be this way. But we need to take control and personal responsibility for the way that we interpret these things. And you have a unique perspective. And based on your engineering, your endurance training, your faith, everything that makes you you, your identity, in just like 2 to 3 minutes, can you give everybody who's listening or watching hope?
In terms of faith, what is great about Christianity is that you have a book and you have a manual, and all you have to do is just follow that manual. Whatever is going to happen, here's your manual. So it's a root source. So no matter if the economy is going down, no matter if there were some very prosperous individuals even in the time where Egypt had enslaved the Israelites. There were some Israelites that were making a lot of money, that were in a higher position. They were still as slaves, but it even talks about it in the Bible, where the Egyptians were scared that the Israelites would take over because they were making too much babies. So that what I'm saying is that there is a manual in terms of faith. Follow it, study it, meditate on it, day and night, pray. It's not because it is a pastor that he's right all the time. It's not because someone is online and has an authority that he's definitely right. I might say certain things that you might disagree with. And then you go back to the Bible and correlate what I'm saying, correlate it with the Bible. If I said something wrong, please don't just hate me. Come back and correct me. I would love to hear it because I would love to improve. But if I said something right and I offended you and then it changes something, then it's just based on the root. And the root is for the Christians, it's the source of life. So we have a book, and no matter what happened, that's what we're going to go with. Now, in terms of the non-Christians, in terms of giving them hope, the way I can clarify it is based on pain. Is your pain real? Definitely. Can you do something about it? You can definitely do something about it because there are people that are not Christians and are very prosperous financially. The way I would look at it in terms of the economy and in terms of all of these things happening, there's a huge shift happening. And if we look at the history, we look at World War II. There are some people that started with not a lot of money, discovered a path through pain. They were willing to go the long distance and made a lot of money and are now even in a better position than they were before. It changed their entire lineage. So how about you be that person, Christian or not? How about you be that person that is going to change your lineage? And whether the world end tomorrow or in a month or in 50 years or to some degree, some people believe it's never. Forget about the economy. And that's how people that succeed in life are looking at the world. They're looking at it from, it's painful, and I'm willing to become that person, up to and including death. I want to be highly successful in terms of ultra endurance event. If that's what you want to do, please go ahead. You want to beat all my achievement, please go ahead. You want to make more money than me? Is it doable? It's really doable. When we look at AI, you know that there was, when we look at history is fascinating. When we start looking at patterns, right? That's what I love about engineering is that you look at facts. So with the pattern of history, many people were against the tractor. Hey, you're serious right now? Like, you know how much I can do with a tractor. Now, I'm no guy that is going to tell you exactly how to pick up food from a field. Like, I'm nowhere close to a farmer. I admire those farmers. They work very hard, and I thank them. But they were against the tractor. Why? Because it was going to take away jobs. Do I use AI? I use AI on a daily basis in my job. You probably do it as well. Is it a tool to get you to another end? Definitely. Are a lot of people going to lose their job? Well, how about this? Be that person that is going to think differently, because now maybe you listen to this podcast and you think, JD said, it's going to be painful regardless. It's going to be painful because you're without a job. Maybe your wife is going to leave you. Now you don't have a job. You don't have money. You're now not able to train. It's very difficult, or you have to work 3-4 jobs. AI is going to replace a lot of jobs. But at the same time, now the farmers are able to do much more because of tractors. So at the same time, if you look at it from the perspective and shift your mindset to someone of success, you're not just hanging out at the Lamborghini shop. And I've heard an interview once of a guy just saying, "Oh, go to those kind of shops and just sit in those cars, and that will make you feel like you are." This is not a feeling. Has nothing to do with feelings. I don't want to wake up half the time. I don't want to even put on my pants. I'm wearing pants right now, but
You don't even have to.
I wouldn't even exactly. I would not even have to for my job. That is how my job is. Mm-hmm. So it has nothing to do with my feelings. It has to do with the actions that you're going to pose according to the pain that you're willing to endure. And it's going to be difficult, like I said, when you're at the top or when you're at the bottom. And if you think that that person in another third world country has it even worse than you. I told these people, by the way, I said that talk to some guys in Africa, okay? We're talking about a village in, nobody would know where that village is in Africa unless you came from that village, okay? It's really far. And I said that to those people. You have more than the average person has in America. You talked about clothes and you talked about, I have too much clothes. See, it's just a matter of perspective. If all of a sudden I have too much clothes, now it becomes a burden for me. Now, what am I wearing? Am I wearing this type of watch? Or am I wearing this shirt? Or am I wearing these pants? Am I not even wearing any pants? Well, and that's just clothing. Which car am I going to beep today? Which house am I going to be in? What vacation am I going to take? Or what race am I going to do? Right? So now you are overwhelmed. So that's what I'm saying. Pain is real, but use that pain to be constructive. Constructive in your own way. So try to figure out what God has called you to do. Because pain is based on experience. A person that is in Texas has a different experience than a person that is in a small village of Africa. However, both can achieve certain things that are outside of the norm and achieve even greater than what they believe in terms of their structure, their environment. So for him, building a house, well, it's for you, it might cost you $300. For him, it might be $1. Who knows? It's all about your experience and your perspective. Your pain is real, but instead of looking at it from in terms of feelings and emotion, that your pain is real, so it should cripple you, how about you look at it from how can you shift it to get to your next goal? What is your next goal? Because based on the economy, some people were not even able to survive. Yet my mother is Native American. There you go. My dad is white. It's all about a matter of perspective. It's all about a matter of what are you going to be doing no matter what other people are going to say. They're going to hate you. They're going to love you. Like I said once, if I know one person, I know only one person, and I hang out with that person, and they really love me, well, I'm not going to have any haters because I just know that one person, and I'm just going to love that one person, and we're just going to align. But if many, many, many people know you and you're known worldwide, you're at least going to have one hater. At least one.
At least.
At least. So we're talking
I have
about
them.
the economy. We're talking about the wrong or the good or the wrong president there's always going to be something. So let's go
Every
back
time.
to fuel for your effort. If all of a sudden you're part of the stock market, should you be consuming things that are about the stock market? Correct. You are. If all of a sudden you are in politics and you need to know about these things, should you be consuming the news? Correct. But if you are not part of this, should you be consuming it? And the answer is probably not. For me, that was one of the first things that left. I had to unplug from the news. And now that we're making a bit more money, then I go back to the news because I have to know a bit more about how the world is operating.
Because
Now,
you
am
have
I
to protect your
careful
business.
as to how I'm fueling? I am. But I understand that there is pain and I choose the pain. I'm the one that is going to take responsibility for my actions and not just blame anybody else about it. Based on, I hope it gives a lot to think for the listeners and that it gives them hope because it's not based on the economy. It's not based on, you can blame anything you want. And if you would know a lot more about my story, I started from nothing. Now we're doing well. I got wiped in a divorce, completely wiped. She left me with a bicycle. And by the way, I took that bicycle and I did the DECA. So look at what I did. Exactly. Okay. And she can be crying. She can be happy for me. I'm not doing it for her. I'm doing it because God said, JD, you're in that position. That's what you're doing. That's it. I want to be seen as how God sees me, not how the world sees me. And the way that the world is going is not the way that I can even trust them. In terms of forgetting things, the attention span of people is decreasing, definitely. That's a study that is, and I would say get a decent coach, a person that is able to provide you with a different perspective. Because when you shift your mindset to something different, then you're going to achieve something greater. If you get a coach that is always in agreement with you and telling you that you're beautiful, then you're not improving. At best, you're maintaining, but most likely you are decreasing in terms of your outcome, your goals. So get someone that is going to challenge you. And the successful people have an attitude. I always tell people, I told my son this when he was a baby, and I would always ask him this question. And I said, who succeeds in life? Noah. And my son always says, the people who have a good attitude. The people who have a good attitude are going to be succeeding. There are people that look at an opportunity, even in the worst places, they look at these opportunities and it becomes sometimes something that is going to change and transform the life of a lot of people. There's at least one person listening to this podcast and still listening to it that is going to resonate with this, that is going to say, no, I am that person. I need to do this. I needed that push. I need to shift my mindset. You need to have a good attitude. Not just in terms of, well, I'm going to smile at everybody. In terms of everything that you're going to be doing. My attitude is, I am serious. If I am saying I will do that race, I will go up to death to finish that race.
Mm-hmm.
If I say I'm going to achieve this financially this year, I'm now willing to go up to death for this. That's what I'm willing to go through. And if you are not, then you are depriving the world of the best self that you could be. So you don't have to blame anybody else. You blame yourself in terms of who you could become. Become that person. I want people to be so successful that they come back to me, even if it's just one person. And we've had that. We've had people that came and said, hey, I did not unalive myself because here we went through this of what you said or of what you did. Or so for me, all of the money that we spend, all of the time that we speak, for me, it's all worth it. When you get to save one life, when you get to transform the life of people, even just the mindset. So to me, I'm going to circle back to pain. It's going to be painful on both sides. So I'm going to end with this for sure. Yeah, it's going to be painful on both sides. It's based on perspective, based on experience, your pain. So you're going to, please don't deprive the world of your best self. Don't deprive I want you to succeed to your best abilities and be healthy. Even please come visit us at the center. Like we do have some machines that test all sorts of capacities or way that you can improve. We have machines to help focus, help in understanding all your body, like up to a molecular level, up to your DNA. We have, I'm a naturopath. I like the natural way. I understand there is the pharmaceutical, and I think it has its place. However, I think people need to take responsibility for what they want to achieve. There's nothing special about JD. Nothing at all. If you retain anything today, other than the Jesus part, just remember the fuel. Take that acronym, drill it into your head, and make sure that you fuel your body and your mind and your soul appropriately. Because no matter what is going to happen, I had a friend who told me once, he said, JD, no matter where we leave you, you will always succeed. And at that moment, I had difficulty. I said, there's no way. I was in a dark moment of my life. And I did. I went to some places that probably will scare a lot of people. And I did. I ended up in those places and I succeeded. I succeeded in all of those things, and it had nothing to do with the economy. It had nothing. It's based on the attitude that you're going to have towards something. It's based on the perception that you're going to have. It's based on success. That's what it is. These people, that's what they're looking. That's how they're looking at it. That's who you want to hire. You want to hire people that think differently. You want to hire people that are not just successful, they think in a successful way. And the way to think successfully is not just to wear the nice watch and drive the nice cars. It's really to think, it's your mindset that is the root. You have to go to the root and change your mindset in order to change your entire life. Your entire life is going to shift once you take that mindset that it's not the world, it's you.
I think that's a great close. Lovely. And, in the spirit of this, you had talked about your clinics and things of that nature.
Yeah, we have LinkedIn. They can reach out to us, or we can go on hungrywarrioracademy.com.
And I wanted to thank you sincerely.
Yeah, well, thank you, Michael, for having me on the show. It was a pleasure speaking with you and sharing about this topic.